the deadliest honor in the Roman army. Being the first man on the wall during a siege was often a death sentence. It meant charging through open ground, climbing a ladder while arrows and stones rained down, and engaging the most desperate defenders at the top. Still, Roman soldiers volunteered. They even fought each other for the chance. Why? Because of the corona muralis, the mural crown. This golden crown, shaped like a city's battlements, was awarded to the first soldier who breached enemy walls during a siege. It wasn't just a piece of metal, it was a ticket to fame, fortune, and political power in ancient Rome. Rarely awarded and never given posthumously, it became one of the most coveted prizes a Roman soldier could dream of. The siege of New Carthage in 209 BC, during the Second Punic War, the Roman general Scipio Africanus set his sights on New Carthage, the Carthaginian stronghold in Spain. His plan was ambitious and risky. On the morning after his army's arrival, Scipio ordered simultaneous assaults from the east and south, but the defenders repelled the attack and the Romans withdrew. But Scipio wasn't done. That very afternoon, he launched a second assault. The defenders, having exhausted their ammunition in the morning, were caught off guard. They pulled men from the north side of the city to reinforce the other sides, exactly what Scipio had planned. While the defenders focused elsewhere, 500 elite Roman soldiers crossed a lagoon to the north. They scaled the wall undetected and opened the eastern gate. From the inside, the city fell. Who was first? After the battle, 2 men claimed they were the first to scale the wall: Quintus Trebellius, a centurion from the 4th Legion, and Sextus Digitus, a marine fighting from a galley to the south. Their dispute nearly erupted into violence between their units. To prevent bloodshed, Scipio appointed 3 arbiters. Their ruling? Both men reached the wall at the same time. Both were awarded the corona muralis. What made the crown so important? The corona muralis was not a common decoration. It was only awarded to 1 man per siege, the first to make it over the wall. And since awards weren't usually given posthumously, many soldiers who attempted the feat died in vain. The risks were enormous, but so were the rewards. According to the Roman writer Aulus Gellius, the crown was crafted of gold and designed with battlements, symbolizing the walls the recipient had conquered. It was Rome's version of a Medal of Honor, but with even more impact. Honor beyond the battlefield. The corona muralis wasn't just about battlefield glory, it was a political weapon. Rome was a society built on virtues, a Latin term meaning bravery, excellence, and masculine virtue. Achieving military success was a requirement for social and political advancement. Awards like the corona muralis visibly signaled a man's courage and leadership, making him a natural candidate for higher office. For an ambitious Roman, that crown could change everything. It brought wealth, fame, and opened doors in politics, and it elevated not just the man who earned it, but his entire family. A new political dynasty could begin with a single act of bravery. The story of Quintus Trebellius proves it. Before New Carthage, his family, the gens Trebellia, was virtually unknown, but after the award they rose through Roman society. In 55 AD, Marcus Trebellius Maximus, a descendant, became consul of Rome. Anyone could win it, but few did. The corona muralis was one of the few honors open to anyone, regardless of rank. While generals and nobles often received praise, this was one prize a simple marine could win. And sometimes they did. Still, most recipients were centurions, battle-hardened officers who led from the front. They had the best chance of survival. Their men protected them, secured ladders, and supported the climb. Once on the wall, they could push forward while others followed. A lone man had little hope. A leader with a squad had a fighting chance, and those centurions didn't keep the glory or the gold to themselves. Sharing the reward was common. The soldiers who helped win the wall likely received gifts or a share of the prize. Why storming the wall mattered in a siege, the wall was everything. It was the physical and psychological barrier between invaders and defenders. Scaling it was dangerous, nearly suicidal, but also the quickest way to end the fight. Sieges could last months. They drained resources, morale, and manpower. But if one man made it over the wall and others followed, It could all be over in a day. That's why armies offered rewards like the Corona Muralis. The risk was high, but the potential reward was even higher. A quick, decisive victory. In the case of New Carthage, time was running out. Scipio knew that a Carthaginian army was marching to relieve the city. He had to take it fast. The actions of Trebellius and Digitus weren't just brave, they were decisive. They won the battle, possibly even the entire campaign. The legacy of the wall historian Livy described Roman soldiers' hunger for the crown. The men dashed on in the face of wounds and missiles, and neither walls nor armed men standing on them can restrain them from vying with one another in the attempt to climb. To a Roman, death was preferable to dishonor. Glory in battle was the fastest way to rise in society, and few acts were more glorious than being the first over the wall. It sounds insane today, men rushing toward almost certain death just to win a crown. But in ancient Rome, it made perfect sense. Political, military, and personal success were inseparable, and one man's glory could lift his entire family into the Roman elite. Beyond Rome, the tradition didn't die with the Republic. During the Roman Empire, the practice continued, though awards became more political and sometimes more selective. Even into the Middle Ages, knights and soldiers competed to be first. Over the wall, the reward? Not a crown, but knighthood, land, or wealth. In medieval Europe, kings and lords offered similar prizes for similar reasons. Siege warfare hadn't changed much. The wall was still the hardest part. The first man over, it still took the greatest risk. And leaders still needed brave men to do it. The death of the individual. Hero eventually, though, the age of heroic wall climbers came to an end. In the early modern period, warfare changed. Gunpowder, pike formations, and regimented discipline made personal acts of bravery less important. Victory no longer depended on a single soldier's courage, but on the coordination of thousands. Commanders no longer encouraged individual heroics. They feared disorder, breakdowns in formation, and unnecessary risks. Honor gave way to discipline. Glory came not from reckless bravery, but from obedience and unity. But the legend of the Corona Muralis remained. It stood as a symbol of a different era, when one man's courage could change the course of history. When soldiers raced to the top of walls not for orders, but for honor. Final thoughts, the Corona Muralis was more than a medal. It was a mirror into Roman values: courage, honor, ambition, and sacrifice. It told the world who was willing to face death for glory. In a society where personal valor shaped political destiny, being the first on the wall wasn't just about bravery. It was a way to write your name into the history books and elevate your descendants for generations to come. For men like Trebellius and Digitus, it was worth everything. They didn't just win a battle, they won immortality.